Hey everyone, and welcome back to by Holly. Welcome to today's video. So as you can tell from the title, this video is going to be all about histone modifications, and specifically histone post-translational modifications. And it's going to be the second video in my kind of like epigenetics series or playlist. And if you are interested in like the basics of epigenetics, then I highly recommend you check out my first video, and I will leave a link to that up here and down below. Histone proteins are the most widely recognized or the most canonical proteins of chromatin. Chromatin itself describes the interaction of DNA with protein, and these histone proteins of chromatin, they can be modified, and those modifications, or those post-translational modifications more specifically, they constitute epigenetic information. So that is the topic of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoy it and find it useful. As always, give it a thumbs up if you do, comment down below and subscribe if you are new. The final thing I'll just say before we dive in is that I have been working on biology notes. So as I've talked about on my other channel, so Holly Gabrielle, I have been repurposing and modifying my notes from my undergrad at Cambridge and my master's at UCL, and I will be releasing those notes. So there will be a link down below to the page. Some notes might be live by the time you're watching this video, but if not, I will leave it down below. Definitely watch this space and I will let you know when they are released. Question number one is basically, what are histone proteins? And we basically have 5 histone proteins. So we have histone 1, H1, H2A, H2B, H3 and H4, but only 4 out of those 5 go on to form what we call the nucleosome. A nucleosome is the basic unit of chromatin. It is built in a controlled and highly regulated manner, just like a lot of things in biology. We basically take a heterotetramer, and that is composed of 2 H3s and 2 H4s, and then we take 2 heterodimers of H2A and H2B. So putting those 3 parts together, so one heterotetramer, one heterodimer and another heterodimer, we form an 8 subunit nucleosome core, and that is what DNA will wrap around so that we can condense chromatin into the nucleus. And specifically around one nucleosome, we have 146 base pairs of DNA, and that wraps around roughly 1.75 times. So that is a nucleosome. It's this octamer of histone proteins as well as that DNA wrapped around it. Very importantly then, the reason why these histone proteins can interact with DNA is because DNA is negatively charged, and these histone proteins, they have a net positive charge, and that's because they are rich in basic or positively charged amino acids, so like lysine and arginine, and obviously unlike charges attract, so the negatively charged DNA associates with those positively charged histone proteins, and that allows them to come together to form these nucleosome cores. And a histone protein, so an individual histone protein, they are composed of a globular core, and then they have 2 termini. They have an N terminus and a C terminus. They're basically 2 tails sticking off this globular core. And just remember, with proteins, we always read them from the N terminus to the C terminus. So the start of a protein is at the N terminus and the end of a protein is the C terminus. But what's most important about these histone modifications, these post-translational modifications, meaning that we modify them after they have been translated on a ribosome, is that most of the histone modifications occur within the N terminus. Whilst we do see modifications to the globular core and the C terminus, they're just not as common and they're not as well studied. The final thing then to say is that histone 1, as I said, it doesn't form the nucleosome core. It's not one of those 8 subunits. Instead though, it acts as the linker histone, so it helps to further compact chromatin and kind of like stabilize higher order chromatin structures. So now we're going to move on to looking at histone modifications exclusively. Basically, the first thing to say is that histone modifications are very diverse and they're very extensive. There are lots of them. There's like histone methylation, acetylation, phosphorylation, isomerization. There's a lot of them. However, the majority are reversible, and there are 3 key processes involved in the dynamic